All right, hey there. Welcome to you. Today we are doing a deep dive into deep work.
Oh, deep work.
Yeah, deep work. So, we are all about success in a distracted world.
Yes.
And we've got a whole stack of stuff here. A lot of books and articles on this concept of deep work, offering strategies to make it, part of your life.
Lots of good stuff.
And our goal is to distill it, like
Yeah.
really get to the most important points so that you can become well informed very quickly.
Yes, quickly and thoroughly.
Right. We don't want to overwhelm you.
No, not at all.
But we do want to give you some aha moments. So
Yes.
we're going to walk you through first of all what deep work is.
Okay.
Then we're going to talk about why it is so rare these days.
Yes.
And then the surprising connection to a good life.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah. And then we're going to end with some strategies, some actionable things you can do to incorporate deep work into your life.
Love it.
And we're going to hear examples of people who have done this successfully.
Art.
So, what exactly is deep work?
Well, in a nutshell, it's the ability to focus without distraction on a cognitively demanding task.
Okay. So, I mean, it's more than just like, sitting down to balance your checkbook.
Yes, it's about really engaging those higher level thinking processes.
I'm thinking of Carl Jung.
Oh, yes.
He actually built a place for deep thought. Like he constructed this tower in the woods, his Ballingen Tower.
His own personal retreat.
And he would actually like step away from his clinical practice to go there.
It speaks volumes about his dedication to focused thought.
Yeah, and the idea is that he felt that in order to really achieve the kind of intellectual breakthroughs that he wanted, in order to really change the world with his thinking, he had to have that space.
Precisely. He recognized that deep work wasn't just a luxury, it was essential for achieving his ambitious goals.
And then there's this other example. Jason Ben, he was a financial consultant, and he decided he wanted to learn to code.
An interesting career shift.
And so he had this like method. I mean, he would go into a room, lock himself in a room, and he had just textbooks and note cards and a highlighter.
No computers, no phones, no distractions.
Everything, right.
A true digital detox.
And he would practice out loud. So he really went all in on this.
It's fascinating how he deliberately stripped away all those potential distractions.
But, he says it was really hard at first.
Of course, training your mind to focus that intensely isn't easy.
Yeah. But eventually he was able to put in 5 or more hours of distraction-free study each day.
That's an incredible transformation.
Yep.
From constantly distracted to hours of deep focus.
So, he had this preparation and he really honed his ability to do deep work. And that allowed him to succeed at this program called Dev Bootcamp.
Dev Bootcamp, yes. Notoriously difficult.
A PhD graduate from Princeton described it as the hardest thing I've ever done.
Wow, that puts it into perspective.
And so he's able to not only get through this program, but graduate at the very top.
That's a testament to the power of deep work.
And so, this isn't just an academic success story.
Right.
This actually translates into, real world benefits. His salary went from $40,000 a year in consulting to over $100,000 a year as a developer,
That's a significant jump.
practically overnight.
And it highlights a crucial point.
Yeah.
Deep work isn't just about feeling productive. It often translates into tangible, real-world rewards.
And what's interesting, too, is that he's still a believer in deep work. So in his new position, he carves out these focused hours before the day really begins.
Not strategy.
Yeah, it's a far cry from, his old habits of just like browsing the web all day.
Which he admits to doing.
Right.
It emphasizes how deeply ingrained those distraction habits can be.
So this really highlights the idea that deep work is becoming so important in the information economy.
Yes, the skills that were sufficient in the industrial era, where many jobs were routine, they simply don't cut it anymore.
So we're in this knowledge work economy, and it's all about the ability to think critically and solve complex problems.
And to do it efficiently.
Right.
Deep work is becoming a key currency in this new landscape.
So, I mean, you've published books, you've earned a PhD, you have a tenure track position,
Sure.
and you've done this all while maintaining a relatively balanced work life.
Relatively balanced.
So how
I prioritize deep work. It's been crucial for my productivity.
So, how much? How much time are you actually dedicating to deep work?
I aim for a consistent block of 3 to 4 hours each day, 5 days a week.
So it's like building your own personal Ballingen Tower.
In a sense, yes. Creating that dedicated space for focused thought is essential.
And so the sources suggest that a deep life is a good life.
There's a strong connection there.
Yeah. But here's the thing. If deep work is so beneficial, why is it so rare?
It's a good question. And the sources highlight some significant trends.
Like open office spaces.
Yes, the open office trend.
I'm thinking about Facebook's new headquarters.
That massive open floor plan. Thousands of employees.
And Jack Dorsey at Square, he's a big advocate for open offices as well.
He believes in the power of serendipity.
Spontaneous learning.
Right, those chance encounters.
But is it really good for productivity?
Ah, that's debatable.
I mean, the sources suggest that these environments can be incredibly disruptive.
It's tough to focus when you're surrounded by constant activity and noise.
And then there's this whole pressure to be on social media all the time.
Yes, especially for content creators.
Even the New York Times encourages its employees to be active on Twitter.
It's seen as a way to engage with the audience, to stay relevant.
But Jonathan Franzen, he got a lot of backlash when he criticized Twitter.
He questioned its impact on serious writing.
Yeah, and I mean, if you think about it, for someone like a journalist who needs time to do deep research and to write carefully, social media can be a huge distraction.
It pulls you away from the core work.
George Packer, he decided not to use Twitter at all.
And his book, The Unwinding, was very successful.
So it seems like we're in this weird situation where business trends are actually making it harder to do deep work, even though the evidence suggests that depth is probably more valuable.
The irony is palpable.
And the sources talk about this principle of least resistance.
Which essentially means that in the absence of clear feedback on what really matters, we tend to do whatever feels easiest in the moment.
And connecting with people, responding to emails, it feels productive. But is it really?
It can be deceptive. It creates a sense of busyness without necessarily producing meaningful results.
It's like Richard Feynman actively avoiding administrative tasks to protect his deep thinking time.
A wise move.
Yeah, because in his field, the value of that focused thought was so much more clear.
The connection between deep work and tangible results was undeniable.
But knowledge work, it's not always so straightforward.
It's a much more ambiguous landscape.
Matthew Crawford calls it the bewildering psychic landscape of knowledge work.
There's often a lack of clear, objective measures of productivity.
So we end up focusing on busyness as a proxy for output.
Exactly. The constant emails, the online activity, they become a stand-in for actual results.
It's like Alyssa Rubin at the New York Times. She has a very minimal presence on Twitter.
And she's a respected journalist.
It makes you wonder why people who are valued for their deep work are still pressured to engage in these more shallow activities.
It's a paradox of our time.
So deep work is rare, but the sources also make a strong case for why it's crucial for finding meaning in our lives.
It's about connecting with something deeper than just the daily grind.
Yeah, like Rick Furr, the master swordsmith, his work requires such incredible focus.
I mean, even a slight lapse in concentration can ruin hours of work.
And yet he finds so much meaning in the process itself.
It's about the pursuit of mastery.
It's that connection between your effort and the tangible result.
It's something Matthew Crawford talks about as well. The satisfaction of concrete manifestation through manual competence.
But in knowledge work, that connection can be a bit murky.
We're constantly bombarded with messages about the importance of shallow, internet-related activities.
It's almost like we've lost sight of the value of deep, focused work.
It's ironic because deep work offers a unique benefit.
Yeah.
It actually helps us to avoid those smaller distractions that plague us all the time.
Like how so?
When you're fully absorbed in a task, there's simply no mental space left for those little anxieties and worries.
It's like that state of flow Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi talks about.
Precisely.
I'm remembering some of those emails you shared, the ones that seemed urgent at the time but turned out to be completely trivial.
They were a perfect example of how easily our attention can be hijacked by things that ultimately don't matter.
So the sources argue that by engaging in deep work, we're actually using our brains in a way that maximizes meaning and satisfaction.
Winifred Gallagher suggests that a focused life is the best kind there is.
And there's this interesting philosophical argument as well.
Yes, Dreyfus and Kelly's All Things Shining.
They worry that we're losing our appreciation for sacred, shining things.
That sense of awe and wonder that comes from witnessing true craftsmanship.
But the sources also point to examples that challenge this idea.
Like the young computer coder who describes his work as being like poetry.
Or the pragmatic programmer, which draws a parallel between software development and the building of medieval cathedrals.
Even in modern knowledge work, there's potential for artistry and meaning.
So it's not about finding a passionate job, it's about cultivating a rarefied approach to whatever you do.
And that approach requires deep work.
So how do we actually do it? How do we make deep work a part of our lives?
The sources offer a wealth of strategies.
And the first thing they emphasize is that you need a philosophy.
A deliberate approach, not just random attempts to focus.
Right. So they describe four main philosophies.
Okay.
The first is the monastic philosophy. Think Neil Stevenson.
He famously avoids email altogether.
He sees writing novels and engaging in shallow communication as mutually exclusive.
He even explores this idea in his novel Anathema, where deep thought is prioritized above all else.
Then there's the bimodal philosophy.
Which involves alternating between periods of intense focus and periods of greater accessibility.
Carl Jung's retreats to his Bullinen Tower are a good example.
And Adam Grant, he structures his academic year around this philosophy.
With dedicated semesters for deep work and then shorter periods of being more available.
The key is having clearly defined and well-communicated periods of inaccessibility.
The third philosophy is the rhythmic philosophy.
Where deep work is scheduled regularly, like Jerry Seinfeld's daily writing routine.
It's about the power of consistency, of building a habit.
Consistency is crucial for making deep work a sustainable practice.
And then there's the journalistic philosophy.
Which involves fitting deep work into whatever pockets of time become available.
Like Walter Isaacson writing his books in those spare moments at a shared beach house.
It requires flexibility and the ability to switch into focus mode quickly.
Regardless of which philosophy you choose, the sources emphasize the importance of rituals.
Specific practices that signal to your mind that it's time for deep work.
Like J.K. Rowling checking into a hotel to finish Harry Potter.
Or William Shockley isolating himself to work on the transistor.
These grand gestures can be incredibly helpful.
They create a clear separation between deep work time and the rest of life.
But what about collaboration? Deep work often seems solitary, but the sources explore its role in creative breakthroughs.
They introduced the hub and spoke model.
Where you have these hubs of collaboration where you're exposed to new ideas.
And then you retreat to the spokes, those individual spaces, to work on those ideas in depth.
Like the invention of the transistor at Bell Labs.
A classic example of how collaboration and deep work can fuel innovation.
There's also this concept of executing like a business for your personal deep work goals.
Drawing from the four disciplines of execution.
So you have to identify your wildly important goals, the things you really want to achieve.
It's about aligning your deep work efforts with your biggest aspirations.
And you have to focus on lead measures, the things you can directly control.
Like the actual time you spend engaged in deep work.
Right, not just the outcomes.
Because focusing on the inputs gives you more leverage over your productivity.
Then you need a compelling scoreboard to track your progress.
Making your progress visual helps to maintain motivation.
And a cadence of accountability.
Regular reviews to ensure you're staying on track.
So the next strategy seems a bit counterintuitive. Don't take breaks from distraction. Instead, take breaks from focus.
Interesting.
It highlights the importance of genuine leisure.
It's about giving your mind a true break from work.
And the key is having a shutdown ritual at the end of the workday.
No more work-related thoughts or activities.
The sources mention two main reasons for this.
Okay.
First, it allows your unconscious mind to process complex problems.
It's the incubation effect.
And second, it helps to recharge your energy for deep work.
We have limited cognitive resources for intense focus.
So, the shutdown ritual, it involves reviewing any incomplete tasks, making plans for completion, having a consistent process, and maybe even a concluding phrase.
A ritual to signal the end of the workday.
They also talk about this paper, consider it done.
Which suggests that making a plan for an unfinished task can actually free up cognitive resources.
It's like giving your mind permission to let go of the task for now.
Exactly.
Okay, so next up, train your mind to focus.
Building that capacity for sustained concentration.
The sources mention Adam Marlin, who significantly improved his ability to think deeply through Talmud study.
Even though he had a lot of prior education.
The point is that concentration is a skill that can be developed.
It's not just something you're born with.
And the flip side of that is you have to wean yourself off distraction.
Breaking those ingrained habits.
They talk about Clifford Nass's research on the negative effects of constant online attention switching.
Our brains aren't wired for that kind of fragmented attention.
So an internet Sabbath can be helpful, but it's not enough.
It's like trying to eat healthy just one day a week.
Right, you need a more consistent approach.
Exactly.
And so they suggest schedule your internet stints
Intentionally planning when you'll be online.
and then avoiding it completely outside those times.
It's about reclaiming control over your attention.
So you're not constantly being pulled in different directions.
It's like building a mental fence around your focus.
Resisting the urge to check online during those offline blocks, it's like concentration calisthenics.
Strengthening those attentional muscles.
Then there's practice productive meditation.
Using periods of low-intensity activity to work through problems.
They use the example of Theodore Roosevelt, who was able to excel academically despite limited study time because of his intense focus.
He had an extraordinary ability to concentrate.
So, productive meditation could be something like going for a walk or commuting.
And using that time to think through a work challenge.
They suggest reviewing the problem, identifying the key variables, and then trying to consolidate your thoughts.
Turning downtime into thinking time.
Then there's the strategy of memorize a deck of cards.
That sounds unusual.
It might seem strange, but it's actually a way to train your concentration.
Okay, how does that work?
So Daniel Keeloff, he found that memory training had a positive impact on his academic performance.
Interesting.
And Ron White, he has this technique where you use a memory palace.
A mental image of a familiar place.
And you associate each card with a vivid image and place it in a specific location within that palace.
So it's like creating a mental map of the deck of cards.
And the act of doing that, it strengthens your ability to focus.
Makes sense.
All right. And finally, make the internet your bitch.
Take back control from those online distractions,
They critique the any benefit approach to using online tools
where you justify using a tool just because it offers some small perceived benefit.
without considering the downsides.
The potential for addiction, the time it steals away.
So they advocate for a craftsman approach.
Choosing tools deliberately based on their impact on your core values.
Like Forrest Pritchard, the sustainable farmer, who carefully considered whether to buy a hay baler.
Weighing the benefits against his commitment to soil health.
And they apply the law of the vital few to internet habits.
The idea that 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts.
So you have to identify the online activities that really matter.
And make sure your tool usage is aligned with those activities.
They give examples of writers like Malcolm Gladwell, Michael Lewis, and George Packer,
Who have all achieved success without using Twitter.
So it's about focusing on your core professional goals.
Not getting sidetracked by minor potential benefits.
And then they suggest quit social media for 30 days.
A digital detox.
It's like a packing party for your digital clutter
A chance to reassess the role of social media in your life.
without deactivating your accounts or making a big announcement.
It's about quietly stepping away and seeing what happens.
So the sources also talk about using what I did on my summer vacation, intentionally scheduling ambitious, deep work projects during your free time.
So, using vacations or breaks to make progress on important goals.
Like Arnold Bennett's idea of a day within a day.
A dedicated block of time for self-improvement.
Maybe reading great literature.
Carving out time for those things we often neglect.
And then there's the 4-day work week.
Working less to potentially achieve more.
Jason Fried and 37 Signals, they experimented with this.
Giving employees a month off to work on deep projects.
The idea is that by eliminating shallow work, you can actually be more productive in fewer hours.
And create more space for those truly valuable activities.
Okay, and lastly, ruthlessly prune shallow work.
Minimize those low-value tasks that drain your time and energy.
They suggest schedule every minute of your day.
Taking control of your time by planning how you'll use it.
And quantify the depth of every task.
By estimating how long it would take to train someone else to do it.
So you can distinguish between truly deep work and more superficial activities.
And prioritize accordingly.
And ask your boss for a shallow work budget.
Making the impact of shallow work explicit.
And finish your work by 5:30.
Setting a fixed schedule to create a sense of urgency.
And become hard to reach.
By making thoughtful choices about communication.
Like using sender filters for email.
Managing the influx of messages.
And do more work when you send or reply to emails.
Anticipating the back and forth and providing comprehensive answers up front.
And finally, don't respond,
To emails that aren't truly important.
especially those that are ambiguous or uninteresting.
Or wouldn't have significant consequences if ignored.
So, as we wrap up, what's the main message you want our listener to take away?
Deep work is crucial, not just for success, but for meaning.
In a world full of distractions, it's a superpower.
And it requires effort, but the rewards are worth it.
So here's a final thought for you to consider.
Okay.
What's one shallow commitment you could cut out this week?
To make space for deeper work.
And what's that shining thing you could create with that focused effort?
It's a challenge.
Don't just listen. Take action.
Experiment.
This deep dive is just the beginning.
The start of your journey into the power of focused work,
We'd love to hear about your experiences.
and any questions you have.
Thanks for joining us.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll see you on the next deep dive.
Until then.